The 2015 version of the HP Spectre X360 is now 2 years old and is the first generation of Spectre laptops, with both the 2016 and 2017 models being sold with newer CPUs, I/O and higher resolution displays. Is the 2015 Spectre X360 still worth it, and can it still hold its own against newly released laptops? One area where this laptop has aged a bit is the I/O, with the lack of USB-C. However, it does provide a healthy selection of other ports, removing the need to use any dongles in your current setup. Starting from the left-hand side of the laptop, you'll find a full-size SD card slot, power button, USB 3 port, ventilation grill, and the charger input. On the right-hand side, you'll find a multi-mode DisplayPort 1.2, HDMI 1.4, 2 USB 3 ports, and a headphone jack. There is also a volume rocker, which is useful in tablet mode, and a Windows button, which I find kind of pointless, but at least it's not in the way or easy to accidentally press. Speaking of tablet mode, the Spectre X360 has a full 360 degrees of screen rotation, allowing it to go from closed to tablet and anywhere in between. Moving on to the display, the 2560 by 1440 IPS 13.3-inch display has good colour reproduction and impressive blacks, without any noticeable backlight bleed. With the large resolution and small screen, text appears nice and crisp, and details in movies sharp. I would imagine that at this size, the 4K screen, which you would find in the newer versions, versus this 2K screen, would probably not make much of a difference. The touchscreen is actually quite good on this laptop, and having used the Surface Pro 4 before, I would say the Spectre screen is just as responsive as the Surface's screen. The one complaint I would have about the display is the brightness. While the brightness is more than good enough inside, outside, especially with the glass display where the sun reflects off into your eyes, the screen is a bit harder to see, and it would be nice just to have slightly more brightness. Moving on to the touchpad, you may have noticed that it's quite wide. Some people will say it's too wide, but with the well-made palm rejection software, I have had no accidental interactions with the touchpad, even while typing, so I just see the extra width as a comfort factor, giving the flexibility for both left-handed and right-handed people to comfortably place their hands wherever they want. This width does have a downside when it comes to clicking the touchpad though. When first using the laptop, I would often left-click instead of right-click, due to the area where you need to right-click being so far to the right and relatively small compared to the size of the touchpad. The keyboard feels great. It's quiet and is comfortable to type on, with the keys requiring a satisfying amount of pressure to press. For a laptop this thin, I'm very happy with the keyboard experience. There are, however, some downsides to the keyboard. I'm not a huge fan of the layout of the enter key on this keyboard. Before getting used to it, I was accidentally hitting hash every other time I wanted to press enter, which is a bit annoying. Full-size arrow keys would also be quite nice. HP have opted to go for this always-on light when the keyboard backlight is off, which does make it very easy to locate in the dark, but is very distracting in every other situation. While writing this review, I ended up just leaving the keyboard backlight on, due to the on-off light kind of annoying me. Now, I'm not too impressed with the microphone. As you can hear, it sounds a bit distorted, especially if I raise my voice a bit and speak a bit louder. It sounds a bit distorted. But the webcam is okay. It'll get you through Skype calls, business calls, whatever you might have to do. And if you like to type while you talk, the microphone does a very good job at cancelling out the noise of the keyboard. So that's one good thing about the microphone. Battery life is very good. With some real-world testing, I managed to use only about 40% of the battery over 3.5 hours of fairly intense use, with the screen constantly on 50% brightness. For most of the time, I was listening to music on Bluetooth headphones, watching YouTube videos, opening and using multiple Chrome tabs, sending emails, and uploading to OneDrive. This would lead to a total of around 9 hours of battery life, standing up very well even against the latest 2-in-1s. One slightly annoying bug I have found is that the battery prediction seems to be broken. It's a common problem between Spectre laptops, and it doesn't seem like HP are ever going to fix this, judging by the age of the forums that are complaining about this bug online. The Spectre I have is kitted out with an i7 6500U, 512GB of storage, and 8GB of RAM, so by today's standard, it's still more than powerful enough to do most tasks. Even with the thin build and high-performance core, the laptop stays fairly cool under load at around 70 degrees, and does not suffer from any thermal throttling. This is achieved by dissipating heat through the metal chassis and the fan, which doesn't get too noisy at full load and turns off when the CPU is less than 30% utilised, which is most of the time under normal use. Crystal DiskMark benchmarks hold up well against today's standards, meaning that the operating system will continue to stay snappy even after installing many programs on it. The huge advantage to buying a slightly older laptop is the price. There are many more opportunities for second-hand purchases. The build I have here with the i7, 512 gigs of storage and 8 gigs of RAM came to £899 in total, fully refurbished from eBay. This is a very competitive price, especially considering that newer 2-in-1s at this price are likely to have i5s, much less storage, and likely less RAM. So if you're looking for a high-performance, good-looking 2-in-1 and want to save as much money as possible, then a 2015 Spectre X360 may be for you, assuming that you are not yet bothered about changing your whole setup to USB-C.